it's time to allow the light for gain. Step in the spotlight, grab a seat. Join with wisdom to share. Each video crafted with care. The Jen Hardy Show, oh yeah, it's here. Soak up the sun with glitter and cheer. Shower thoughts to make you think. Champagne wishes and caviar dreams. Engage with minds both young and old, in conversations wide and bold. From life's big questions to simple joys, we're here with insights, not just noise. The Jen Hardy Show, oh yeah, it's here. Soak up the sun with glitter and cheer. Shower thoughts to make you think. Champagne wishes and caviar dreams. The Jen Hardy Show, oh yeah, it's here. Soak up the sun with glitter and cheer. Shower thoughts to make you think. Champagne wishes and caviar dreams.
Hello, everybody. This is so exciting. I have got my friend Jack Baldini here. Hey, Jack.
Hey, Jen, how are you?
I'm good.
I'm so
I'm
glad to
good.
be here.
I'm glad to have you here. So Jack is an attorney and typically for creators, right?
Correct. That's
Very
my
cool.
intro into them. I do a lot of copyright, a lot of patent law, a lot of trademark law, but I then wind up doing whatever they need. So it's sort of a general all-purpose business stuff.
Very cool. And what I like about you is that well, we can talk about that later because we only have a couple of people here so far, but you're a nice attorney, you know? And I love that. And I love one of the things that we talked about when we first met, you were talking about what you do is that if you have a client and they're not doing great things, you're like, yeah, we don't need to work together, you know? And I respect that so much about you. I think that's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm at a point in my life really where I don't need, I don't mistake being nice for being weak, because I will be tenacious when I need to be and it's in my client's interest to be. But no, I like to be friends with the people that I work with and work for. So 100%, I can pick and choose, and I'm lucky to be in that position. But yeah, if we don't get along, I'm probably not the best fit for you.
Yeah, which is it's fascinating to me. I love that. I love it. So we're waiting for just a couple minutes because we've got a couple people coming by, but they're not here yet. So we're just going to chit chat, and then we'll have you tell your story and whatever. So what happened with your ACL? Because
Yeah, so I've always been a very active person. I've always been very athletic, and growing up, I always played football and baseball and basketball, all the stuff, all the sports, and I like to continue it. I've always just enjoyed staying fit, but I can't just work out. I can't go running. I can't go on the treadmill. It's just so boring. I can't do it. I just don't have the willpower to do it. So, but playing tennis or playing basketball, I can do. And basketball is my one true sport passion, but it is also the sport that has the only one that's ever really seriously injured me. And I have torn my Achilles tendon playing basketball, and I also ruptured my ACL. And the ACL was when I was about 30. It was about 35 years ago that I ruptured my ACL, got it repaired, and my knee gives me problems sometimes. I can usually tell when it's going to rain. It's from a little bit of knee pain, but I still play through it, and I still play.
there you go. Well, now we got people bopping in here. So if you're coming in here, this is not a show about Jack's ACL. We were just chit-chatting while we waited for you to come. This is Jack Baldini, who is an attorney who does a lot of work for creatives, which I thought would be really great for some of my friends and the audience. A lot of our audience, hey, Emily, a lot of our audience watches court online. And so, we thought we've got the creator angle and the court angle, which is, hey, Lexa, I'm so glad you're here. And so this is an interesting conversation we're going to have, Jack, because we're going to be talking and then I'm going to be saying other things. And yeah, it's a whole different thing. But anyway, you've got an incredible story. And that's part of the reason I wanted you to share it, because one of the things that I'm really trying to encourage people to do is, Lexa, is, I don't know what's the word, get up and do things. right? And because we're never too old or too whatever to get up and go do what we always wanted to do or stop doing the things we don't want to do. I feel like there's so many people stuck with things they hate and just because that's where they've been, right? Because it's comfortable or whatever. And you are the prime example of somebody who just changed that. So I don't know if you want to start with, I don't know, start with about what, 30 years ago? What were you doing?
Well, so I'll start with when I first enrolled in college. I was pre-med. I was going to be a doctor, and I worked a summer in an emergency room. I think it was the summer right after my freshman year of college. I volunteered. They let me work in the emergency room. I was like sort of triage. I was the first person patients would see when they came in. I think their blood pressure and stuff. And I quickly realized that it is a very different profession when there are actual live patients in front of you.
Yes.
I'm a scientist at heart, but when you're in pain and hurting, I just didn't think I could do that and all props to all doctors and nurses everywhere. They're great, but I just couldn't do it and realized that and sort of needed to change gears. Had no idea what I was going to do, but I always loved to cook. So after I did graduate, I decided I'd already started the program. So let me graduate. I have a degree in microbiology. So I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I always loved to cook. I thought I was pretty good at it, and an opportunity came up right after graduation to sort of get into the restaurant business. And my partner in college and I, who also, by the way, has a degree in microbiology, that's why I met him in that department, we decided we wanted to pursue that. So we did. It was supposed to be a couple-year detour until I figured out what I wanted to do in life. And it turned out to be 20 years. It was a lot of fun. I ate well. We didn't make much money, but we ate well. That was our running joke all the time. Always had the endless supply of food, but we got by. We were a very successful delicatessen in North Jersey at the time, and but after 20 years, and now I'm like hitting my 40s, thinking, okay, what am I going to do when I grow up? And it was my wife who suggested you should be a lawyer. You love to argue. You always think you're right. And I thought in the back of my mind, I was like, you know what? That's not a bad idea. So I went and I bought a book at Barnes & Noble's on how to take the LSAT. It was basically just sample LSAT tests, which is the test kind of like the SAT to get into college, but this is for getting into law school. So I just showed up on a whim on a Saturday afternoon to take the LSAT at I think I was 44 years old, and did well enough to get into two colleges. I got into Seton Hall and Rutgers, and I picked Rutgers because the cost difference for an in-state student in New Jersey. That's where I lived at the time. And I got in, one foot after another, and I was graduating the top of my class at 48. My goal was, when I started the process in my mid-40s, I need to be licensed to practice by 50, and I will have accomplished my goal. And I was licensed before I was 49.
That's incredible. So what was it like? Were you there with a lot of kids that were like 20 and 21?
Yes, 100%. There were a few, because I started at night because I still had the restaurant for the first year of law school. So I went to night school for the first year, and then I transitioned to daytime to finish. Because normally law school is 3 years, but the night program is 4 years. Daytime program is 3 years. I finished it in 3.5 because I started at night. In the night program, there were some other, there was actually a couple doctors there that I'm still friends with, one airline pilot. So there were some established people, older people, but I probably was either the oldest or second oldest person in the class. And most of them were pretty young. And then when I switched to daytime, it was all these overachieving young students who were very, I don't want to say it, they were cutthroat. They just wanted to be number one in the class. That was their thing. They would undermine you to prop themselves up, and I am so not like that. Like, I just think, when the whole sea rises, all the boats rise.
Right.
So, but anyway, that law school was a challenge. It was, but I never missed a class. I have 100% attendance. every class through law school, which I can't say for my prior educational career. But it's the way to accomplish something. You're dedicated to it. I was on a mission at this point. You know, you hit your 40s, and it becomes a mission, and I wasn't going to be deterred from it. So
That is so cool. And if you have any questions for Jack or anybody, you can just, yeah, you can ask away, because, you know, that's why we're here. But I just think it's so incredible. And Lexa, you're right. You know, biology to the restaurant business. And I think, did that help you? Because I know my mom was a food technologist, and so there was a lot of science involved in cooking and everything.
So there's science involved in cooking, and I think Greg is my partner who also has a degree in microbiology. We took a scientific approach to making food at some, certain ways, but I think food preparation is really more of an art than a science. Baking is more of a science, but food preparation is more just, it's got to have a feel for it and an act for it. So, but that science degree came into play. So I'll tell you this too. My very first day, I went to law school. My very first class, I was just enamored with it from right out of the gate, and I knew immediately this is going to be my transition thing. I went into the store the next day and talked to Greg and said, "I'm done. Got 1 year. We're going to figure this out. You're either going to buy it from me, we're going to sell it together, but I am retiring from the restaurant business in 1 year." And true to form, he did wind up taking it over from me at the end of that year, and that's when I switched over to daytime. And then I took my first intellectual property law class. And shout out to John Kettle, Professor Kettle of Rutgers Law. He is an amazing intellectual property law professor, and I'm still friends with him. And he's the one who sort of wet my whistle for intellectual property and trademark and patent law. And that's when I realized, because the patent bar is the only area of law that requires a completely separate license in order to practice it. You can't be a patent lawyer without passing a separate patent test. And in order to qualify to sit for that test, you need some kind of science background. So suddenly it all came full circle. I was like, there's where my microbiology degree comes in. It's going to get me into the patent bar. And now I can take this test, which I took while I was still in law school. Past that, was a patent agent before I was a patent lawyer. And it all came full circle. It all made sense now. Like, there was a design.
That's so,
in the grand scheme of things.
it's interesting that you need something in science to get a patent.
You need enough credits in science or a science degree in order to sit for the test for the patent bar.
Wow.
The Patent and Trademark Office believes, rightly or wrongly, I'm not so sure, but that in order to write patents for people, you probably need a scientific mind. You have to have that kind of way
that
of,
makes sense.
And for a lot of patents, that's probably true, but probably not for all of them. I mean, there's patents on certain fashion designs, and I think an artistic mind might be a better mind than a science mind. But nevertheless, in order to sit for that test, to be able to practice patent law, you have to have a science degree. And suddenly it made sense why I finished my degree in microbiology.
Yeah, that's
Not
incredible.
that I've written a patent ever that has anything to do with microbiology. The test isn't even about science. The test is about procedure. But in order to qualify to sit for it, you need that science background.
Well, I guess when you think about it, yeah, having a scientifically thinking mind, I guess that's really fascinating. See, I had no idea. So, what were your hardest courses and favorite ones? Alexa wants to know.
My favorite ones were all the intellectual property ones, and any one that John Kettle taught. Even after I graduated college, I went back to help him in the law clinic there. He runs the intellectual property law clinic, which I was also a part of in school. And I helped him do certain exercises for students after I graduated. That's how close we became. So any class that he taught, the trademark law classes, was probably my favorite. My least favorite was probably civil procedure, just because it's so rule-oriented. But I do have a funny story about that class, too.
Okay.
My wife loves when I tell this story, because, again, it is a very rule-based class. There are rules of civil procedure, rules about how discovery is conducted, rules about how service of your complaint on the defendant has to be done. Whether you can, you're in one state and you want to sue somebody in another state, how that's possible to bring them to the current state, or do you have to go to their state to sue them? All those kinds of questions is what civil procedure is all about, and it's very rule based. And it was an open book exam, but limited open book. You could have that rule book with you and your notes, and that's it. You couldn't have any kind of treatise or any somebody else's prepared stuff. So on the day of the test, and your grade in law school, every class basically comes down to your final exam. You might get a little bump because of your class participation or stuff like that, but basically, by and large, 95% of your grade comes because of 1 3-hour performance on that final exam. So there's a lot of pressure to do well on that exam. This is an open book exam. I'm living at home, not at school, because I'm still working, and so it's about an hour commute from my home to the school. So the morning of the exam, and because it's night school, all the exams were on Saturdays. So Saturday morning, wake up, my book and my notes together and everything, and go downstairs to the garage, put everything by the car so everything's good. Go upstairs to get a cup of coffee, for the ride in, get my coffee, get into the car, drive to law school, shut the car door in the parking lot garage, and realized, crap, my books and notes are still in the garage next to where my car was. And there is no time to commute back to home, back to the law school to take this exam. So I'm now without anything. I don't even have a pen. So I was basically like, what am I going to do? So I looked in my car. I found a pen. I'm the last one walking into class. There's only one seat left way up front. So I'm walking past all these desks, all these people with desks with books piled high, and they're all like into them and like outlining their notes, where they're going to. And I just walk in with one pen, sit down in the front seat without any book, and everyone's looking at me. And I just took the test completely with an open book test without any books. And I got an A minus.
That's incredible. That is incredible. Oh my gosh. Yes, Alexa, I would have been so nervous too. Oh my goodness gracious.
I was completely nervous, but at some point a calm comes over you and you say, look, I studied for this. I know it. They passed out the test. I started, I know the answer to that. Write out my answer. Next question. Let me do that. It was just one question that I wanted to see the rule, because it was a hypothetical question of this hypothetical fictional state that was mirroring the rules that we'd learned. So, and they wanted you to compare the rules of that fictional state that they just outlined in the question with the federal rule. And they wanted you to sort of compare it. So I wanted to actually have the rule they wanted me to compare in front of me. So I put down my pen, I went upstairs to the dean's office, explained to her what I had done, and I said, I really should be entitled to have the rule in front of me because it is an open book exam. And she went on the internet, downloaded the rule, printed it out, and handed it to me and gave it to me so that I could go use it. So I did have that one little help in order to do it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Hey, Eric, it's great to have you here. Dave was asking about AI. Let's see, but I'm trying to find it. Oh, let's see. With the use of, how does that look in the IP law sphere?
I'm sorry?
Are you dealing with AI things at all?
Oh, AI is so big right now. So huge. I've spoken at Podfest about it. And I've attended many other people talking about it almost from the other way, using it as a creative tool. So, is there any specific question about AI that's being asked, or you just want to know sort of generally my feelings about it?
I don't know. I mean, as a creator, I know. Okay, how does it? Well, yeah, but I think that's a pretty vague question. How does it look in the IP sphere? So as a creator, I know we had Gordon on here in the very beginning when I started going live, and we were talking about it.
Yeah, good friend.
Yeah, and he is like not a fan of all the, trying to do stuff. But so let's say, okay, so I create AI music, right? And
Yeah.
so, and I teach classes in AI and do all the things. And so let's say I create a song that's AI, and the company says that as long as I have a paid membership every month, right, to their thing, that if I create it, I own it. If I don't have a creative, if I don't pay, they own it. But is that true? Do I really own it?
If AI completely created it,
Well,
nobody
no, if
owns
I
it.
write the song, if I write the lyrics
Well,
and then I run it through and it adds the music.
well, then you own the copyright in the lyrics because you wrote them. I don't care what membership you joined or didn't join. If you wrote it, you own it, unless you transfer the first and somehow the right
Yeah, but
to it.
no, but if I write all the lyrics and then, yeah.
But absent some kind of written agreement, because you do require a written agreement in order to transfer ownership and copyright.
Okay.
Okay, so start from that premise. So as long as there's no kind of written transfer agreement around, the moment you create something, you as a human being create something and fix it in a tangible form, you've written it down, you've captured it on film, you've painted it onto the canvas. The moment that happens, you own the copyright in it. There's nothing else you need to do. And nobody can take it from you unless you agree in writing to give it to them. The moment you attach some sort of AI created thing to it, AI AI creations are not copyrightable. They're just not. They're just public domain.
Okay.
So the lyrics you own the copyright to, and the music nobody owns the copyright to it.
Got it.
And that's my one issue with using AI as a creative is you got to use it only as a tool to assist you, just like you're going to use, just like an engineer uses a compass and a protractor, just like a musician uses a synthesizer or a guitar, and just like a painter uses paints and a paintbrush. Use it as a tool to help you create, but you have to be the creator, and then you can own the copyright in it. If you're depending on AI to do it for you, you have to understand that what it creates and what you're using simply has no copyright in it at all. And anybody can copy it and use it without infringement because there is no copyright.
So let's say I use AI to make an outline for a book, and then I completely write the book with my own words. Then it's my book. But if I use AI to write the book, it's no one's book.
It's no one's book. It's everyone's
Okay.
book. More,
Yeah. Okay. As far as ownership. So Eric is asking, is the law ready for AI?
So my answer to that is the law is never ready for anything. That's new. The law is very, very slow to adopt anything. So there's a lot of case law in front of lots of courts right now about AI, and so we're all watching it very, very closely. But at least in the United States, so far, no court has ever said anything created with AI has copyrighted it. It's just public domain material. And on the flip side of that, so let's talk about how AI actually creates something. Because a computer program doesn't create something unless it has an algorithm that it's learned from. So there's also case law going on right now where large repositories of materials whose materials have been used to train AI are suing the AI companies because they didn't pay a license for the AI generators to download all that material. So there's also the potential that when you use AI, you're going to get sued because you're using something that's already infringing something else. Even though the output isn't really copied, it's different. It's created, but it's created from something that was using materials that didn't have a license to do. And Eric is also asking, do we need more or better targeted legislation? Yeah, we absolutely do. Write your congressmen, write your senators. But again, the law is always behind. The law reacts to what's going on, not just with AI, but all throughout history. The law always is very reactive, and it never anticipates well enough what needs to be there That's why problems, and that's why lawyers make money, because they argue about what's right and what's wrong, and they convince a court to say what's right and what's wrong. And then the court issues a decision, and if the legislators don't like it, they legislate around that law to overturn it. That's just kind of the cycle of things. And unfortunately, it's just how it works.
So let's say somebody uses AI and they don't realize that what they've been given was taken from someone else, which is a thing, because I'm part of a creator group and several of them have had their stuff used that way and they're very much not happy.
Mhm.
So okay, see, I get so distracted by the things. What was I going to say? So let's say I create something using AI. I don't realize that it's someone else's work or whatever, and then I have an attorney sending me a letter or calling me or whatever. What can I just take it down and then I'm fine? What is the rule about
So,
that?
so black letter, no, you can't just take it down and be fine, because once you've committed the infringement, let's assume for the sake of discussion that what you did actually did infringe somebody else's material. If you've infringed, you've infringed. Merely stopping it doesn't cure the past thing. But with that said, most times, even when it's not AI oriented, when it's just, hey, I found a picture on the internet and I thought it was pretty, so I put it on my website. Most of the time, you're just going to get, hey, take it down. And if you take it down, everything's going to be okay. Worst case scenario is you're going to get sued and you're going to have to pay an infringement for it. But here's the thing, too, with copyright infringement. If the thing that you've infringed has a copyright registration on it and not just that copyright. So I told you before that as soon as you create it, you own the copyright in it. You don't have to do another thing. If you infringe a work like that, you're in a much better position than if you infringe a work that, okay, now I've created it, but now I've also registered it with the U.S. Copyright Office. Because once a registered work is infringed, two important things kick in, and that's statutory damages. You don't have to prove damages, you just get what the statute tells you you get, and it's not nothing. And you also get attorney's fees. So you can find a lawyer who will write that cease and desist letter and make you pay something, or else you're going to get sued. And when you get sued and lose, not only are you going to have to pay the damages, you're going to have to pay the other guy's attorney's fees. It's a very significant amount. So be careful when you're finding stuff on the internet. Absolutely. Yeah. Don't just use it.
Do not just copy pictures and take them. Okay, a lawyer friend told me to try to remember when using AI is to search fair use. I've never tried to do that. So you can say the conscious effort was made not to infringe. But does it, okay, if I make a conscious effort not to infringe, but I do infringe, I still infringe though?
I would say that making a conscious effort to appear that you didn't infringe is consciously, almost positively, you know you're infringing. So here's the thing about fair use. Fair use is a defense to copyright infringement. You already are admitting you're an infringer, but I have a good reason and I should be excused from my infringement. I always advise people, don't even get into the realm of copyright infringement if you can avoid it. Don't rely on fair use. Fair use is never a defense until a judge says so. So the only way you know fair use is going to work is when you're already in court being sued, and no one wants to be there. Right? I mean, so
yeah, no, definitely.
I would not rely on fair use as, this is a fair use, so I'm just going to take it.
Yeah. So I have a friend that has a show. I won't name it because I love this person, but they frequently play music, very well-known music, literally what their show is about. And we keep saying, you got to stop, right? You got to stop because they play significant segments of very famous songs. And isn't that like $100,000 a time if somebody goes after you for that?
So intentional infringement of known copyrighted material can be as high as $250,000 per infringement when it's willful. The minimum is $750. So per infringement and attorney's fees. So it gets really expensive really quick. Yeah. But again, it depends what you're doing with it and how much of it you're playing. So if I had a show that, for example, um, who's better, the Rolling Stones or the Beatles, right? And I want to take and play Satisfaction versus It's a Hard Day's Night and compare the two songs and which one was, better musically, compositionally. I might have to play a few bars of each of the songs just to say what I'm talking about. That actually is what fair use is all about, where you should have a right to play just enough to do what it is you're doing, which is the critique of it, the comparison of it, the criticism of it. Parody is another fair use factor. Um, so if you're doing that, if that's what they're doing with the music, they almost have to have the show.
Right.
But you don't want to cross the line of, well, let's just listen to this whole song and then I'll spend 20 seconds talking about it.
That's what this person is doing. Yeah, they're playing like half the song at least.
Yeah.
And I keep saying,
if what you're doing almost like, well, I don't have to go to Netflix or Spotify anymore to get the song. I can just listen to it on your show. Then that artist isn't getting paid his due royalty on it anymore, and they're going to be upset. You're going to get a letter at some point.
Yeah. All right. So Eric, who he makes films, which are very incredible, by the way. I just want to point out there is a Melbourne International Film Festival here in Florida that Eric is part of, and it's pretty amazing. It's coming up in October. And Eric, I don't know, Dave or Eric, if you guys want to put the link in the thing, it's really interesting. You can come and watch all kinds of movies, and it's really neat. And he wasn't going to promote it, but I will. Okay, so he's wondering, what's your view on the hypothesis that pushing copyrights longer, which we've done, is bad for innovation and speech? Picasso said, good artists borrow, great artists steal.
I love that. That's a great line there.
I've never heard that before, Eric. So that's
cool,
by
the way.
Yeah, there you go.
So, but anyway, so let's do a quick compare and contrast on the three major IP protections and how long they last and what you get. So, with patents, the most you can get for protection time frame is 20 years. But it starts from the day that you file the patent, and once you file the patent, you probably don't get the patent for at least a year, probably 2, sometimes longer than that. So your actual patent enforcement life is 17 years, maybe 18 years, something like that. And you pay a lot of money along the way to have it. Copyright for a single author is the life of the author plus, I think it's now 95 years. It might be life plus 70 years. For a corporation, it's 95 years from the creation. Anyway, it's a long time period. And it costs about $65 to get the registration. So when you're comparing the protection, how much it costs to get a patent and how long you have to enforce it versus how inexpensive it is to get a copyright registration and how long your estate is essentially enforcing it years from now. The Michael Jackson music is being enforced for a long time still. The Sonny Bono Act in '95, I think, is the act that Eric was alluding to, because that extended copyright back in 1995 for another, 25 years, I believe it was. And a lot of it had to do with Disney was pushing that through, because Mickey Mouse was about to go into the public domain and they wanted to extend Mickey's life a little bit longer. Yeah, I do believe Mickey's copyright just did run out, but it would have run out in the late 90s, not now. But they're also, Disney's very good at this, by the way. So Disney does a lot of things to renew it because they create derivative works that then have a new life frame. So you could still be infringing Mickey even though Steamboat Willie is in the public domain at this point. So still be careful of copying Mickey, even though Mickey technically is in the public domain. But I believe there should be something in the middle, not this just 20-year life for patent owners and life plus, it's literally like 150 years for copyright owners. There should be something more reasonable for both.
So if someone's watching and they're thinking, okay, but what's the difference between patent and copyright? Couldn't I just get copyright for my thing then? It's not the same, right?
No, they're not the same. Copyright, patent, and trademark each protect different things. So, patent really protects the idea, the underlying thought of, but as it's manifested into a device, into an invention, patent protects an invention. Trademark protects the source of you selling something, like the Jen Hardy show. Your trademark is Jen Hardy at this point because it identifies to everybody who's watching whose show they're watching, what the title of it is. Copyright protects the content in your show, the artistic creation. So there's nuances to them, and you can use all three sometimes for the same thing, but they protect different aspects.
And I've got to say, I tried to do a trademark on my own. Don't do it. Hire Jack. If you, it's the copyright thing wasn't hard. Like I did, that wasn't hard. That was cheap, whatever. But trademark and obviously patent. I mean, that's not even something you would touch by yourself. But the trademark thing, I was thinking, oh, how hard can it be? No, it's.
I will also go out on a limb and say I'd rather you do it by yourself than hire some of the less than personalized service firms that are out there. We'll call it. Not trying to be nice. Um, the I guess Trademarkia is one. LegalZoom is another. There's a bunch of them out there that just kind of is like a trademark mill. I'd rather you actually go to the USPTO website and try to learn what to do and just do it on your own than just think you're getting what you're getting from a practitioner, because you're not. You think you are, you're not. You're spending. It's just you. I've and sometimes it's fatal. Like I've had people come to me, "Oh, can you fix this?" I'm like, "No, we can start over, but we can't fix it. Sorry."
Oh wow, yeah, it's I still get emails sometimes about you want to revive this thing, and it's actually something that I don't do anymore, so it worked out okay, but I still had to spend the money, and it's not cheap just to start it.
No,
So yeah,
no.
oh my goodness. All
I
right,
mean, a
so
filing fee for a trademark is $250 to the USPTO. It's not life-altering money to just hire a good practitioner to file it for you. It's patent is most expensive, trademark is middle expensive, copyright is pretty inexpensive, and it also follows how complicated they are as well. Like you're right, I've advised clients, look, you don't need me to file your copyright. I'll do it if you want, but you really don't need me. Here's the website. Here's the form you need to fill out, the information you need to know. And even
right.
if you get it wrong, that's not fatal to the copyright. You still, as long as you make a good faith effort at filing your registration, it'll still work.
And I've heard the thing that Eric said, if a screenwriter mails his script to himself, they're protected. I've heard that before.
So that's he's referring to what's colloquially called the poor man's copyright. And years ago, it did have some value because you could prove when it sort of dated it. But if you don't need to prove the date for any reason, it does nothing. It's not a copyright registration at all. And with patents, so sometimes it used to be in the United States that the first person to invent something was the inventor entitled to the patent. Now it's the first person who actually files it at the patent office. So if you and your neighbor down the street are both working on the same basic invention, and you have it, and you write it all down and you mail it to yourself, and you don't open it, and they 3 weeks later get to the same end result and file the patent application, you can't go to the patent office with your dated envelope and say, "Oh, but I was the inventor, I was first," because it doesn't matter anymore. The other guy was the first to file. So there's very, very little value in mailing something to yourself.
Well, that's good to know. Yeah, my grandpa was an inventor, and he didn't trust, for some reason, he didn't trust the patent office or anybody. So he made everything in his garage instead of just doing it. And so he invented, the can opener that takes the lid off the can so you don't have the
Yeah.
metal chips. He
Yep.
invented that,
Okay.
but didn't get all the money from all the people, because he it takes a lot to make those things in metal piece by piece. Oh my goodness. So, but if you have a patent, you are protected, right? I
You
mean,
are. You are. Yeah,
you still
absolutely.
need to pay lawyers though to enforce it.
You would. You would. And sometimes I even advise that to clients who are like him and hawing about the money that it's going to cost. And I said, look, if you're not going to enforce the patent and it's going to take you some money to do that, you also have to maintain a patent. So that's the other expense. So it costs, I don't know, $5,000 to $10,000 to file for a patent and actually get it. Once you even get it, the patent office says, okay, this is good, we approve it, it's issued, but they want another $500 to issue it on top of that. Then at 3.5, 7.5, and 11.5 years in, remember I told you the life of the patent is 20 years. At
Yeah.
3.5, 7.5, and 11.5 years in, you have to pay a maintenance fee, which I don't know off the top of my head, but just to ballpark it is like 1,000, 2,000, and 4,000 along those lines. So you still have another 7,000 to keep it for its entire life. So a patent is very expensive. And yeah, if you want to pay me to write a letter that says, hey, you're infringing my patent and pay us royalties or stop or we're going to sue you. Suing for patent infringement in court can sometimes be upwards of $100,000. And there generally isn't attorney's fees on the other side unless it's really egregious. So yeah, the patents are for people who really are serious about making money with their patent.
All right. And so for creators too, here's a question, and I think I know the answer. If I'm working for a company and I create something, but I'm doing it for the company, they get the credit for that, right? Do they?
Not necessarily. Typically, when you work for a company, they will. Someone wants to hire you. What makes you so much? So, in copyright, if you've written something, and what you've written is within the scope of what you were hired to do, the company owns it. There needs to be that's just, hey, we hired you to do this. This is what you do. Typically, in your employment agreement, if you're really an inventor, you will have in your agreement for patents that they own what you invented. But absent that agreement, it's not necessarily the case. You can't, if you're using their workshop and their materials, they probably own it. But if you're in, like, was it your dad that you said that, or somebody that?
My grandpa.
Your
Yeah.
grandpa. So if he worked for a company but is at home in his garage inventing these things, he would own what he invented in his garage. The company wouldn't.
Okay.
So it depends where it's invented, what materials we're using to invent it, and the agreements, your employment agreement with your employer as to that, who owns it. A lot of disputes over that over the years too.
Yeah. So if somebody, because we were talking about you before everyone joined us. So because I was saying the great thing that I like about you is that, people have an idea about attorneys. They, I'm sure you hear that all the time, but you're, to me, I believe that you're a different kind of attorney, and you don't have that at all. And it's not for you. It's not a whole money thing. Like you'll just take anybody's money, because if you don't work with just anybody.
That's true. I don't. There has to be some kind of rapport. I like to work with people I like and be friends with go out and have a beer with, and I do take my clients' issues to heart. I take them to bed with me. I do get heartburn over things that don't go right, don't go well. And I know a lot of lawyers who don't. Hey, that's your case. You lost. Sorry. I'm not like that. I can't do that. I can't separate. I'm helping you 100%. And I don't want to help you 100% unless I like you. And I like a lot of people. Don't get me wrong. I don't turn down a lot of people. But there have been times when I'm like, yeah, I'm probably not the right fit. We're not the right fit for each other.
You want to play golf? Do you golf?
I do golf. Yeah, like I said, I think we were talking earlier, not on this segment, that I play a lot of sports. I'm very active, and yeah, golf is one of them. Absolutely.
Yeah, I wish Dave could play golf. I don't think he's going to play golf for a couple of weeks. We'll get him back up there. So for you watching, I think Dave tore his meniscus. That's what the doctor said today. I'm really hoping not to. Because when we first met, he was getting ready to have that same surgery. So not fun. But okay, so what other sports do you like?
So the number one sport that I love, and if I could do every day and lived in a place where I could do it every day, is scuba diving. I am.
Really?
I've been diving since I was a teenager. I've dove all over the world. I've dove in all kinds of conditions, in caves and shipwrecks with sharks, with schools of sharks. I've got videos of that. It's a passion. It's a whole other world that we haven't really explored. I think as much as on my website, you'll see pictures from me underwater with some various things that I post from time to time. So that's number one, but it's hard because it's if you don't live like in a place that is has good scuba diving, that's you got to travel to go do it.
Yeah.
So basketball is probably my one that I play several times a week with guys much younger than I am. So it's what keeps me young.
You know what? I think that is the secret right there. And my one grandpa was an inventor. On the other side, my great grandpa, when he was 94, he was painting the second floor of a house, like on the outside on a ladder.
Right.
And everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, get down from that ladder!" And I said, "But you know what's the worst that could happen? You know, because if he falls or whatever, like at least he's doing stuff. You know, he's out there and he's moving. And I really, I can't imagine that would be me, but it would be really great if it could be me one day. You know."
So yeah, I have a story actually that's not so fun of what could happen. So I also ride motorcycles. I haven't much since I moved to Florida, just because it's so hot. It's not as comfortable. But when I was in New Jersey, I had a good friend who basically taught me how to ride. He taught like like official courses, and he was Mr. Safety, and he was such an interesting person. He was part of the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. He was one of the balloon, like he taught the people how to like do the balloon stuff. And,
Oh wow.
like he could have gotten me into like holding the balloons as you're walking down, Fifth Avenue on that parade. But he recently passed away because he was home alone. He was going to clean the leaves out of his gutter on a ladder. The ladder fell, and he fell, and there was no one around to help him. And it was just really, really sad to like hear about that. But yeah, don't get on a ladder at home by yourself if no one else is there to help you.
No.
Because how active you are, accidents happen.
Right? Yeah. Oh no, that's not good. All right. So if you're in the chat, what is your favorite sport? I want to know what you got. What do you guys do? What is my favorite sport? That's a good one. It would have to be swimming because that's the only sport, if you call it a sport, the way I swim. Yeah. Yeah.
So you like to swim? Why
I
not
like
try
to.
scuba diving?
What's that?
Would you try scuba diving?
So I did take a class when I was a teenager in scuba diving.
Okay.
And I learned in a pool in Los Angeles, and then I never did it. So I absolutely would. And what stinks is we live on a barrier island here on the
Yeah.
East Coast,
Mhm.
but we had apparently some sort of little bit of coral, except that when they came to do the reconstruction, the brilliant people went and just got a bunch of broken up concrete and dumped it all along our coast.
So you know
So
what? It's a sad state of affairs. Our oceans. Our oceans should be protected better than they are. I have personally. So when I was diving in the late '70s in the Caribbean, the coral was in almost everywhere I went was pristine. When I go diving down there now, a lot of it is bleached and washed out, and it's definitely not as vibrant as it was way back when.
yeah, it's really, I don't know. Yeah, it's sad. Yeah. So Eric likes to play tennis. I learned tennis. I also learned tennis as a teenager. My parents were determined that I was going to be an athlete. I'm not. But I did learn how to play tennis. And they had the coolest thing for my kids when we lived in LA. I don't remember what it was called, but they all learned how to play tennis and golf when they were little kids.
Yeah.
It is awful about the coral. But yeah, but none of it, we're just not athletes. Yeah. But swimming.
Unfortunately, scuba diving is not really a sport. It's more of an activity, and
Yeah.
it's
So
not a
I
race.
would
It's not
totally
like
go
a,
do that.
yeah.
Yes, Alexa, sunscreen does. It's horrible for coral. I know when my daughter was going, she was going to some
Yeah.
island, like the whole island country has a rule. You have to get certain
Yeah, there's
sunscreen and
certain
everything,
sunscreen safe for
which I wish
oceans.
we
Yeah.
did because, you know, there's
Yeah,
a whole lot of health stuff about sunscreen though too. If you go down that rabbit hole, it's a whole
true.
thing. So which is worse? Is it the sunscreen or is it the sun? It kind of depends
Well,
on who you talk to. But
wear a rash guard, some protected long sleeve shirt, a hat, a
yeah,
bandana, and just be smart about how you're in the sun. I don't use a lot of sunscreen. My wife tells me I'm crazy because of it. But I think I'm pretty
sorry.
healthy because of
I'm
it. So
making motions about my dogs because somebody came in and left the door open. They're going to go close it now. I hope they hear me. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we've got Lexa likes college football, basketball, tennis, and you love to swim. See, Lexa, you and I, we gotta get together.
but
And
actually
there's a
started with swimming. I was on swim team since I was 5 years old.
really.
Yep.
So swimming was my first sport. Apparently, I could swim before I could walk, and
I don't
so
think I
I
could
did
swim
swim.
before I could walk, but it was almost concurrent. I was put in a pool like very young and
Yeah,
adapted to it very, very quickly.
yeah. And then my mom, when I was little, I was like 5 and 6 years old, and we'd go to the beach, and she'd go, "See ya." She let me go for hours. I would just be in the ocean by myself. So, which I would not do because at Huntington Beach, that's where they have surf competitions where they have like waves, you know.
Right.
Um, but
And if you're scuba diving, you don't need sunscreen. You're underwater,
there you
so
go. You're under the water.
you're all good.
We should all go suns. Okay, guys, we're all going to go scuba diving. So if you're in the chat and you want to go, let me know. Oh, that's another thing we can talk about. So with the chat and Jack, I don't know if you're a grandfather, but we are going to. Dave and I are putting on. Well, I'm putting on 2 cruises. I'm doing a cruise for women over 50
Okay.
in, I don't know, January of 2026. But next June, Dave and I and our kids are going to put on a grandparents cruise. It's the what is it? The Get Connected cruise. I can't remember the name, but we're going to teach grandparents how to play Minecraft and video games, and we're going to teach grandkids how to play board games because right now that generation gap is so huge because of tech, and so we're going to teach everyone how to
So
do
it's a
that.
cruise with grandparents and their grandchildren and no parents.
Correct.
Awesome. I'm in.
It's a parent-free cruise. Yeah. And so I think it'll be really fun because I've talked to so many of my friends who have grandkids and they're like, I can't get them off the screen. I don't even know how to relate to them anymore. So we're going to teach the grandparents all the lingo and all the things, right? But then teach
So,
the kids how to get off the screen.
so the whole reason I'm in Florida at this point is because my grandkids are here. So
Yeah.
when in New Jersey, where we're all from, my daughter was talking about moving to Florida for forever, and my son-in-law is a huge golfer, and he was all for it. Said, just go. I love Florida. We'll follow you. And then at one point she was talking about and actually put a deposit down on a house in North Carolina. When I heard that, I'm like, Danielle, what? We never talked about North Carolina. I said, I'm not following you to North Carolina. She says, well, I thought it was kind of like a stepping stone. We'd go there and then we'd work our way down. It's like, to come to see you in North Carolina, I got to get on a plane, not driving.
Yeah.
Once I get on the plane, what's the difference if I have to come to Florida or North Carolina, right?
Right.
No stepping stone. Just rip the Band-Aid off, go to Florida, and I promise you we will follow. And so they took the deposit off that house in North Carolina, found a place in Florida, and within a year we were right behind them. That was the other thing I had to do after practicing golf for like 12 years and having gone through all my schooling and all that stuff. Now I'm like close to 60 and I have to take the Florida bar all over again.
Oh,
Move
wow.
down here and practice. So that was actually harder than law school. Florida bar is crazy.
I can only, Florida, a lot of Florida is crazy. All right. Eric wants to know if copyright law and patent laws vary from state to state or are they federal?
So U.S. copyright statute, U.S. patent statute, U.S. trademark statute is all federal law. I can practice and help people with that in any state. I don't need to be licensed in any particular state to work on those matters. There are some common law things from state to state, especially with trademark and copyright, but honestly, I would ignore all of it and just rely on federal law for all three of those areas of law.
Okay.
Much more comprehensive and well known.
Yeah. Yeah, our bar. I tell you what, getting our water turned on was really tough. It took us hours, and then I couldn't even get my name on it. I was like, is this the 50s? I don't even understand what's happening. But yes, to grandparent camp, definitely, right? Well, see,
Yeah,
and
so,
the thing is,
so by the way, with the grandkids, so
yeah,
my grandkids now, I mean, my wife and I have a lot of influence on them, and they love board games. We have board game night all the time. We play all kinds of, their parents also understand, okay, you know what, they need screen time, but they've got friends and they've got to, like, keep up with their friends. But there is also a limit to it. And there are times you have to put it down, go outside and play, kick a ball around the yard, come play a board game, interact with people, write a book, do something that's
right?
old school.
Yeah. See, and that's how we are too. There's limits. At this with our older kids, we were a lot more strict, but they do need more time now because that is how they communicate. But it's so important. Yeah, we've got 2 cupboards. We put huge floor to ceiling cupboards in our kitchen, and 2 of them have board games because well, our ages, we have what, 12 to 35, and so we need games that cover the whole gamut. So east side. Wait, did you say west side? Oh,
But something about East Side.
east side of Florida, because we're having it's a east side west side. There's a bunch of people from the east side and the west side. There's a lot of people from Florida. Almost exclusively the chat is people from Florida right now, actually.
I am West Side. I am Tampa.
So there you go. Yeah.
But that was all because of where the grandkids moved. I mean, we're literally 5 minutes from them by car.
That is so incredible. See, we don't have grandkids. Our older kids always said they weren't going to have kids. So we're like, well, then we'll have our own. So now we have 2 younger ones. And they said that was very disturbing that we said that. But they still don't have kids. And so, but you know what the difference is? You cannot send them home because they're home. So like grandkids, you can spoil them and,
Correct.
it's a whole different ball of wax when you're 43 and you, start over. But yeah.
I just have 2. They're twins. They're boy and girl twins. They're going to be 15 in a couple
that's
months.
so cool.
And we've been in part of their life from day one.
That's amazing. I love that. I think that's so important. So yeah, one day maybe.
And Emmy, her favorite sport is golf. She's really a prodigy. She could probably play golf professionally if she put her mind to it. That's up to her, whether she wants to or not. And RJ's thing is soccer. He knows every player from every team all around the world. He just is like enamored with soccer.
Oh, that's really cool. And that's a great sport. And no matter where you go in the world, you can just
very
play.
international. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's really neat. Yeah, my daughter is living in Germany, one of my daughters right now, and it's the coolest thing because it's a thing there, unlike what it is here. The whole town walks up the hill together with their, steins or whatever, and they all, it's the whole, they all wear the same color and they're all cheering, and the team is a name that is very similar to a swear word in English that starts with F. And so it's really funny. I can't even remember what the name of it is, but they laugh and walk, and the whole town shows up, and it's a different kind of thing. I wish we had stuff like that here, but
well, we do.
Anyway.
College sports are like that. To me, going to
that's
college
college
football
town.
games, it was kind of like that atmosphere. Because everybody in the whole college is into it. And,
Yeah, it's really cool. I like it. All right, well, it's almost time. Do you have any, let's say somebody is, 40s, 50s, 60s, and they're, thinking, I'm not really happy where I'm at. Would you have any advice for them?
figure out what it is that would make you happy and one foot in front of the other and make it happen. You're never too old. I mean, I don't know, my next thing, and I've been a restaurateur, now I'm a lawyer. The next thing is author, I think. I'm going to write a book. That has nothing to do with any of this. It's completely, it's a whole new project.
Well, that sounds like fun. I love that.
So you're not, as long as you feel good, like as long as you feel healthy, and that's the most important thing, take care of yourself and make sure your health is good, and then you can do anything you want. There is no limit. Doesn't matter. Age is just a number.
And I will take that a step further though and say, even if you don't feel healthy, even if, because when I started, blogging and podcasting and stuff, I could barely get out of bed. There was months I couldn't get out of bed. And so I brought a hospital table. We bought one, and it was, oh my gosh, Jack, I had my recording stuff. I had a boom arm and everything on the hospital table next to my bed with a camera and my computer. And so we had the cleaning lady come, and she took one look at that, and she's like, I don't know what weird stuff you guys are doing, but I'm never coming back. I'm like, no, no, no. I'm just not well. I can't get up. But I did it. And
Well, see,
yeah,
that's the thing that made you healthy. So, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? That's like what that became your purpose to get healthy. So, I
exactly. And now
completely
I'm 10
support
times
that.
better.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So I want to, encourage everybody, your age, your whatever, you just have to know you can do things. You have to believe you can do things. That's the thing, even before you can do them.
Yeah.
So yeah, Alexa, yeah, Jack, thank you so much. This has been really interesting. We've learned all kinds of stuff about you and about patent laws and copyrights, and I feel like I understand it now. So I appreciate that. And this has been great. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's an honor to be on your show, and enjoyed every second of it.
Well, thanks. All right. Well, bye, everybody. It has been great to have you here. We love you all. And Monday, we're going to have Meg from Meg's Crime Watch, who most of you know. She cracked a 50-year-old cold murder case and got an award. And so if you don't know about that, or if you do, come and hear her story. She's going to talk to us and tell us all about it. And I'm very excited. So anyway, yeah. All right. Bye, everybody. We'll see you soon.